So like I mentioned, I want to talk to you about customer acquisition and just some tips on gathering customers. I think you're in a unique situation where you're gathering customers with contacts that are in a different province. And I guess I'd like to start off with that part of your story, is gathering customers when you're in a different part of your province. When you first moved, you lived in Alberta. When you first moved, I guess what were some of the challenges you faced when you were gathering customers right off the hop?
Well, right away, I thought, how am I going to continue with ACN, not living in a province, especially with Zoom, right? Which is one of our best services. And I was gathering lots of Zoom customers. So I kind of knew I had to focus more on two things: social media and really staying good with referrals and follow-ups. So that's what's worked the best for me. I'm still got a lot to learn about social media, posting the right thing and saying the right thing and responding in the right way. But it's helped me a lot with my existing customers when I left. So staying in touch with them, even if it's just, it was always a Merry Christmas. If there's anything I can do. So I got a lot of referrals back from existing customers, which helped.
I think the staying in touch thing is something that's a massive tip because, when we sign up customers, sometimes a new person, the tendency is just to sign them and leave them. But just the simple fact, and what I love about that is it doesn't cost money. It doesn't even really cost much time. It's just a message. But to send a message like a happy birthday or a Merry Christmas or how you doing, means a lot because the competitor's not doing that. So I think that's something that's a major tip. I'd also love for you to focus in more on, let's talk about referrals and getting referrals. Because I think, that's maybe an access point for you for customers and growing your warm market. How does that conversation start? After somebody becomes your customer, where do you start and what kind of language do you use when you're asking for a referral?
Well, it just happened actually this week. My last Zoom I put in last night on the 31st was a referral. Usually when I sign them up and we're finished, before I let them go, I just make sure if they have any questions, if they're happy with everything I've explained, the service. And then I usually are pretty direct when I say, you understand what we've saved for you, right? Usually it's a savings 99% of the time. And a lot of times if they're really happy about the project Feeding Kids, that's something I bring up too. So I just ask them straight out, let's help save some more people. Family, friends, anybody that you can think of. And I make it very clear that they understand, probably like themselves, that most of the people they know, family and friends, they probably don't have any clue what they're paying. They're probably paying way more than they even know that they're paying. So I just say, just have a short conversation and simply just say, listen, it's worth checking out. Here's Kim's number. Just send her what she needs and because I compare all our plans for everybody when I do it. So it's basically at the end of the sign up, I just come straight out and say, let's figure out who else that I can help possibly.
Now, when you have that conversation with your existing customer, how does the introduction with the referral go? So can you maybe explain that process? How do you meet the referral? Is your existing customer introducing you? Does your existing customer maybe just kind of send you a number and say, hey, call this person? Or how does that work in most cases?
Most cases, they're giving my number to the referral, but I have it happen both ways. I've had my existing customer call me and say, Kim, this is my sister. Here's her number. This is where she lives. Can you give her a call? It's probably close to 50-50, but more so that they're passing my number out and the people are calling me and saying, so-and-so passed me your number. How can you help me?
That's awesome. I know these are kind of like very specific questions, but I really do think it's going to help people because for someone who's never done this before, it's these small specific things that they get tripped up on, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the next one is, if your number's been passed out and that person calls you, how's the first conversation go with that referral? Do you go straight for, the services, send me your bills? Is it more of just kind of a hello? How do we know, do we have a connection? How's that first conversation go?
Pretty direct. I mean, I ask them first. Obviously, they usually tell me who gave them my number. And I ask them how they're connected, whether it's family and friends. And the first question I'll say to them is, say it was Sally being referred from Joe. I'll say, did Joe explain anything to you, or did they just say call Kim? And then I know, usually those, whatever they say, no, Joe didn't tell me anything. So I start from the beginning and explain how our business works and what services we have and how we can help them. If the person has explained, Kim did all this for me, this is what she saved, I basically just say, well, Joe explained a lot to you. Do you have any extra questions? Do you want to just send me some bills? Do you want to jump on a Zoom and chat some more? But it's pretty direct right away about the business. Yeah. Because I mean, that's why they're calling, right?
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's good for people to hear, because somebody they may not know. And I think a new person often has a tendency to get a little bit nervous, ramble a little bit, maybe talk a little bit too much, and maybe turn the person off. So I think it's good for them to hear that you're direct, you're to the point, you're clear, and you're helpful. So,
Yeah.
And I think, I can see you being that way over the phone, and I can see people wanting to be your customer right away.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat everything. If they're, say it's a sister or something, and they've repeated everything they've learned from me, I don't want to repeat it all again, right? Because then they'll just say, yeah, well, she told me that. So it's just find out what they know first and then go straight forward.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So I also want you to talk about following up. So that's an important part of anybody that gathers a lot of customers, is they become very good at following up. So the first thing I ask everybody is, and it's different for everybody, you might have a long list of names that you need to follow up with. How do you organize those names and dates and times and when to follow up? Are you more of a digital person, or are you more of a paper and pen type person? Piece of paper on the fridge? Like, what do you do to organize yourself when you're following up?
Yeah, follow up is key. I mean, I'd say over half of my customers, probably more than that, are from follow-ups. If I hadn't followed up, I wouldn't be where I am. So it's really important. And I know, just like them, they can forget to come back to you, and you can forget to follow up with them. So my first go-to is my day timer, my agenda. I have it. Well, it's right here beside me. I have it by my computer every morning. It's for everything. It's for what I have to do, what I have to pay that day. And I always put the person in there. If a potential client for ACN that I'm following up, it's always in my agenda because I'm visual. But I use both, because whatever I write in my agenda, I put an alert or an alarm on my phone for the same thing. Just because 2 reminders are better than none. If I happen to rush out early in the morning and I haven't checked my emails or looked at my day timer, then I have something for that morning and I've forgotten, then I know my phone is going to go off, and I'm right away, I'm going to say, what was that alert for? Right. And I'm going to check it.
That's
So
good. Awesome.
yeah, I like both having both backups.
Cool. So once you're about to follow up with somebody, I think, again, a brand new person might feel, I don't want to pester people. I don't want to call them too much. I already called them once. That's good enough. What would you say to somebody with that mindset, knowing what you know now? If you had a new IBO with that kind of mindset, how would you coach them through it, or how would you help them understand the importance of following up?
Don't say that to yourself. Don't say once is good enough, because it just happened a few weeks ago. I mean, you can cut this out. As you know, I haven't been that organized, but I had talked to somebody a few weeks ago and totally forgot about her. That's kind of another thing I also do as a kind of another backup. It's not written out or whatever, but sometimes at night when I take a half an hour, 20 minutes, I scroll back through text messages, because then I'll go, oh my gosh, yes, I didn't answer her, right? So I tried to do that every maybe 2 weeks. But I would definitely tell them, don't think once is enough. And I don't think I've ever had anyone tell me, you already called me once, don't call me again. Most of the people, they all tell me, that same girl the other week said, thanks so much for reminding me, because she told me I'll call you. And she's the one that didn't reach out and call back. So she was very grateful that I reminded her. She's got kids, she's got life, everything, right? Our energy bills aren't the first thing everybody's thinking of every day. So yeah, don't be afraid to follow up. Most people really appreciate it. And again, I would just be straightforward. When I do message them back, it's not like a big story. Oh, hi, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, just dropping a quick line to touch base to see if you had a chance. If they said they were going to send their bills, see if you had a chance to look at your bills or whatever it is. Pretty, just short and sweet.
That's perfect. And I think one of the best parts about the way that you follow up, and you're humble and you don't want to brag on yourself, but you're a very likable person. You're a kind person. You're a kind-hearted person. So no one, the people that have problems when they follow up typically tend to be abrasive, not likable, aggressive, pushy, not kind. Those types of people, like, well, why isn't it? I followed up 5 times and they don't want to take my call. Like, oh, you're not a nice person, right? So I think that plays a huge part in it, and you're humble enough not to say that about yourself, but I'll say it for you. I also want to talk to you and just kind of emphasize with people that may be watching this. I'd love you to talk about how many services are available and where you live, just so people understand why, you've developed this skill of building in another area.
None. No, well, I shouldn't say none, because I guess mortgages are here now, right? When I first came up here, I was very excited because in my head, I was going to take over Whitehorse with Fluent. It hasn't worked out that way yet, just because they don't feel they have, the demand up here, but that could change. But there's no power and gas because it's not deregulated. There's no internet options. There's only one internet company unless you have satellite. Yeah, cell phones, I guess, is another one, but the major ones I don't have up here. So it's all, I don't get to see people in person for gathering customers anymore. So social media, the phone, text messages, it's all a big thing. And I'll just throw something else in, because you were talking about being likable and whatever. You can see that in a person when you meet them, right? Whether they're smiling and they're bubbly and happy. And there's something I learned a while ago, which some people might not think of, but when you're talking on the phone, just no video or anything, try to smile, because people hear it. People know when you're actually smiling when you're talking to them. So it sounds funny, but they do hear the difference. So when you're talking, they know you're smiling, they know you're happy, they know you're confident and proud about your business. So it makes a difference too.
That's huge. That's an awesome tip. And I think there are people that might be seeing this that live in a small town. Maybe there's not a lot of people in that town, or maybe they're just not able to gather customers where they're at. But that doesn't mean they can't do ACN. That doesn't mean they can't gather customers and they can't make a profit with their business in ACN. What's great about this is you can build it anywhere, and you've proven that. And I think it's good for people to see. So
yeah,
I'll leave you with the opportunity to kind of give somebody some tips here on gathering customers. But if you could go back and give yourself some tips your first month, first year in the business, what would be some of the things you tell yourself that you know now that you wish you knew when you were, only a year in the business?
Probably my biggest thing would be, well, a couple of them. Confidence in myself. So not being shy and not thinking that I can't do this, because even today, I always try to remember what Tim says so often. It's just be honest and be straightforward. So that would be my biggest challenge that I had to overcome. So if anybody's like that, your self-esteem isn't the best, you're shy, you're afraid you can't do it, you're afraid to approach people, it's something you really have to just tell yourself you can, because you have to try to remember you're just talking to another human being, right? And we're just trying to help people. And anyone that's going to come back to you and be rude in any way, it's never happened to me, but if you approach someone and talk to them and they happen to come back and be rude, well, that's just not worth your time, obviously, right? But that's, like I said, it's never happened to me. People really just generally like if you're honest and just straightforward. They just want the information. They don't want any buttered up big story, right? They just want to know how it works and how it can help them. And yeah, that's really all I can say is that's the biggest thing that I had to overcome. So if you're new and you're afraid, it's a big hurdle. I know I mean, still now today, I can be nervous and maybe say to myself, oh, they're not going to be interested. But it's quicker to turn around and say, they might be interested, right? Just like my thoughts leaving tomorrow, I'm going to a totally different country. I've already looked up what they have there. If I talk to anyone, it's going to be a total stranger. So, hey, I'll just throw it out there if the opportunity's there, and you never know.